I was named as Victoria at birth and have never thought of changing it. Well, I actually quite like the name, which I can't really tell why. Probably simply because it sounds appealing to me. And since it isn't such a very common name here, and there was Queen Victoria, that some people will find it kinda noble. Oh, but then it's quite a well-known name, because I feel like most people have heard the name. My name is Victoria on my birth certificate. My parents called me Victoria because my dad is English and wanted his firstborn daughter, me, to have a very English name. My younger brother is called William for the same reason. But my parents never called me that in practice. It was always Vicky. Dad sometimes introduces me as Victoria to his work colleagues, which is odd because he never uses it himself. I think he uses it when he wants to sound formal. I've never liked being called Victoria. I think it's a beautiful name, very traditional, but I've always felt it was too heavy, too formal. It makes me think of someone who is very serious, very posh, who thinks they're socially better than other people, and who isn't much fun. I have always shortened it to something more friendly. The person it represents in my mind is not me, which is why I never use it. So I've been known and called various forms of the name, mostly Vix or Vicky, but also Vic, Victor, Vickle and Vuck. I was named Victoria when I became a Christian at the age of 2. It was given by a father in my church. He did not mention why he picked this name for me. I think Christian names are given to babies as according to a list or something. It's actually a funny story how I got my name. My parents were somehow convinced that I was going to be a boy. I assume this was before the use of ultrasounds. As a girl, I was a bit of a surprise and went unnamed for a few days. They decided to copy one of the other famous couples who were married on the same day as they were, the former governor of Illinois, who had a daughter named Samantha, and the King and Queen of Sweden, who had a daughter named Victoria. They obviously went with the Swedes. My parents started using the name Vicky when I was a baby. They chose the spelling, with an I, as well. Oddly though, my parents never called me Victoria or Vicky, and it sounds weird to me whenever they do say those names. Instead, they called me Vic, Vikinka and Vikita, since we're Eastern European. When I first got to college, I thought that Vicky sounded too juvenile, so I started introducing myself as Victoria. It's a fairly lengthy name, so my friends began calling me Vic, which I'm totally fine with. However, these friends in college started introducing me to their friends as Vic, which I didn't like, since it sounds too masculine to be the only name someone knows me for. I therefore switched back to Vicky, with any new friends that I made. I go by Vicky today because I know that Victoria is too long and formal. My last name is stuffy enough. After using over 4 different names, Maria, Ada, Sydney and Yvonne respectively during my junior secondary years, they just felt not right for me at some point. I finally adopted the name Vicky as the short form of Victoria when I was in Form 6 because it represents victory. I like to win. I was named Vicky when I was born, and so the change came about through usage when I was about 22 or 23. Friends suggested the change, and I hadn't really liked Vicky much. I'm petite for an Australian, and was relatively shy back then, so I felt like a small wee thing, and the name was kind of immature and made me feel like a cute, pretty child. These friends started to call me Victoria, and it stuck. Further to this, I discovered just prior to this that as well as an uncle called Victor, there is a line of Vittorios in my paternal Italian family tree. Lots of friends call me Vic, rather than Vicky for short. I loathe the name Vicky now, although still answer to it if old friends or family use it. I was not born as Victoria, but somehow adopted this name later, after an American soap opera in the 80s. Small wonder that the robot, acted by a cute little girl in that drama series, was named Vicky. Well, I liked that drama so much, and picked this name, Victoria. I asked my mum, and she can't remember. She says she would have liked to call me Natasha, and my father wanted to call me Colleen, which is an Irish name, after his Irish ancestors. And somehow they couldn't reach agreement with those names, so both liked Victoria instead. And this is strange, as my parents were going to call me Victoria, but they felt it would be shortened to just Vicky. But then they went and made it Vicky Ann. Not sure I've understood their logic. I wish my name was just Victoria and the Ann was dropped. Anyway, I feel it is a strong name, regal. It has positive connotations and is determined. I believe I was named Victoria after an artist whose painting my parents had on their wall at home. I don't know exactly when I started to be known as Vicky, probably when I was around 9 or 10 years old. In fact, to start with, I was Vicky with a Y, but changed it to Vicky with IE when I was about 13. I have no idea why, probably just teenage rebellion. Some of my family, my grandfather particularly, insisted on always calling me Victoria, and it used to really annoy me. But as I've got older, I actually quite like it now. I use Victoria sometimes in my professional life. I was called Victoria because I was born in Hong Kong, and Victoria in Hong Kong has very special meanings. A lot of places are named after Victoria. Probably my parents wanted me to be successful, like Queen Victoria. I kinda like this name, but it's a bit long, 8 letters, so sometimes I wish I had another name. A more special name, maybe Jennifer, but I still think no other names can really replace mine. Well, my name is given by my mum and dad. They said that my name means victory. When my mum was carrying me inside, she was sick and needed to take medicine. My mum and dad are Christian, so they prayed and hoped that I would be a good baby and born well. Finally, I came out smoothly, so they called me Victoria. I was born Vicky. My aunt gave me this name at my birth. I never asked why it wasn't my dad who gave me my name. He gave my sister her name, Rosalind, because he liked a movie star with that name then. Nobody calls me Victoria, and nobody calls me by my Chinese name either, which is a phonic translation of Vicky. Everybody calls me Vicky, including all my family. I have only used the name Victoria once in an adult site for finding friends, in order to hide my real identity. Actually, my ID name was Queen Victoria then, because it sounded like a powerful chick. I was looking for something kinky then, but the venture turned out not to be very successful, because I found all the men I met were wimps, or they were very ignorant. Previously I was called Betsy, which was named by my dad up to primary 5. Then I have come across with Spice Girls, and the member's name Victoria. I adopted this name because it is a traditional English name, not like Yen or Aiko that you may have heard today. Although it is a girl's name, it is embedded with power, which I think the girls called Victoria are not timid, and I think this name suits my character in this way. In writing email, I will write Vic, as it is much shorter and faster. Some of my friends call me Victor, as these two are the strongest sound among the 4 syllables. If they are my close and best friends, they will just call me Vic Vic. I was born without an English name, and during school I've chosen Stevie as my English name. I've gone by Stevie ever since, especially after living in America for 5 years. My Chinese name has somehow become the past. The one problem is that Stevie is usually a guy's name, and I'm a girl. So people always ask a lot of questions, like, why Stevie? Or, but isn't it a guy's name? One night, while out drinking with a friend, we decided that we'll have a party name, and I picked Victoria and have adopted that as my middle name since then. It was a bit random when I chose the name Victoria, but it works out, as when I was living in the States, I was staying with a family and the twins are called Paris and Madrid, after the 2 countries the parents are connected to. Victoria is and was known as the capital of Hong Kong by a lot of foreign countries, as I've noticed during my travels and reading old maps of the world. The American family is like a second home to me, and Victoria just connects me with my background, being a Hong Konger, and my experience, being part of the family. Not a lot of people know that I've added Victoria to my name, and I still go by Stevie, but I like having Victoria as my middle name.